My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, but also getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. You can find the link to our playlist in the show notes. Welcome to episode 102. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Lili Crane. The indie rock star from Newcastle recently released her brilliant new single, Lemonade. In today's episode, we're speaking with Lili about recording at home, puppets in music videos, and we discuss the music of the Superjesus. Here we go. Our guest today is an indie rock star from Newcastle. She's recently released her second single of 2021, entitled Lemonade. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Lili Crane. Hello, how are we?
Hello, how are you going?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you today?
Good, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We're very excited to have you here. Thank you for being here.
No worries. Even though we're like over online, we're not really together.
I know. It is, I guess, for yourself as an artist and like you've been creating a bit of buzz with the new single, which we will get to in a second, but how have you found kind of coming up in the time of COVID and having to do press, do videos, everything like that by yourself?
Yeah, it's been pretty hard and pretty like uneventful almost, because like anything that like I've wanted to plan to do has not really worked out because of lockdowns or COVID restrictions and whatnot. And even with the singles, like my latest singles music video, I got one of my friends who's a really awesome videographer to film that, and we only got one day in and then we had to film the rest of it by ourselves at home. Not me, he did it all. So like that was a struggle for him because it was just him and there was so much for him to do. But because we had like these deadlines, we had to get it done. And then like there's been like all these, I've wanted to do all these shows as well, and I've been trying to plan some shows out, but of course lockdowns happened, so there's not really any shows on the horizon. Obviously everything's opening up a bit now, which is really good. So I'm definitely going to dive straight in now and make the most of it and try and get some shows happening. But yeah, it's been really hard.
Have you found that possibly, like it has, I imagine it has been difficult for yourself and for other people trying to, you know, get things done in this time. Do you think that moving forward, even when the world does open up, that maybe it's hopefully looking for a silver lining, that it's created like some independence in terms of like knowing that you're able to do it moving forward if it needs to be? Definitely.
It's yeah, I really like to look at it in that way rather than in the bad way. And I 100% think of that all the time. Like I can track something in my bedroom now. I know how to do that now, and then I can send it off to someone else to mix it and edit it, and that makes me feel really comfortable. And I can set up my camera and do self-timer photo shoots, and and yeah, it is a positive, like learning how to do all that sort of thing. So
hopefully. In my mind, I just had the feeling that there's like 1,000 photographers listening to this with their heart breaking, being like, no, not the self-timer. Now they know.
I was going to say, of course, it's not as good as hiring an actual photographer, but in the scheme of things and when you only have that as an option, it's good to sort of figure out how to do it.
Of course. And like sometimes the aesthetic calls for like something that's like DIY or DIY looking. So no, I think that there are pros in going with both. The single Lemonade is, as I said, creating quite a bit of a buzz at the moment. And I believe it was recorded in your house or in your bedroom.
Yeah, so we did drums in the studio, and I think I might have retracked the bass. Yes, I retracked the bass as well in the studio, but everything else I did here in my bedroom. The only other thing was some of the guitars was my guitarist, so I went to his house and we did it in his bedroom. But yeah, there was a lot of sort of shifting the project to different households to get it done.
How did you find... Because again, like being a new artist, obviously, I imagine that you have actually. I think I know that you have spent time in different studios around the world, but that it kind of comes to this point where you're just sitting in your own bedroom recording it. Did it feel? I imagine it did feel different, but did it feel less? I don't want to say less special, but I guess what was the feeling as you were recording while surrounded by like your childhood bookcase or your computer or whatever it may be?
I think that's actually a really good question. I haven't really thought about that. I think for me it felt really almost a bit frustrating just because there was no one there to bounce any ideas off while I was tracking things. And that was really hard. So like I would have to go to so much effort to send what I was up to someone else to get feedback on it. Whereas like if you're in a studio, there's people there with you and everyone's chatting about it and everyone's talking and throwing ideas around right there and then. It was pretty surreal though, because I remember being 12 and watching people on YouTube who were just like posting covers, but they have their mic set up and they were getting really good sound through their video, and I was just sitting there wondering to myself, how do they do that? How do they work this technology to be able to do that? And so for me, when I was sitting in my bedroom doing that and creating a song, that was pretty surreal. So I would say surreal and frustrating.
It's two very conflicting kind of emotions, or two very interesting emotions to be put together.
Yeah.
The track, to my understanding, was I guess the catalyst came from a conversation on a New Year's, chatting to a young gentleman maybe after midnight, and feeling slightly, I think he was feeling slightly uncertain about what the future holds or what it may be. Is that right?
Yeah. And I think like everything he was saying, I had sort of gone through that just a few months before. And so when we were talking, it was like really hitting me. I felt like I was talking to myself from a few months before that. And it just like, it was insane. I just went straight home the next day and started writing the song.
How often do you find songs like that kind of come from experiences, like that you'll be in conversation, whatever, and then all of a sudden, or maybe not all of a sudden, but within a respectable time period, you're like, oh, I could actually use that as inspiration?
I feel like it hasn't happened with me a lot. Usually when I'm writing a song, I don't know what I'm writing about until it's finished, and then I'm analysing the lyrics and figure it out. But yeah, I'd say there's only been a couple of times that's happened to me, but I just felt super, super involved in that situation and super emotional about it. Like, obviously we were both drinking, so our emotions were quite high, but yeah, it was pretty insane.
Sometimes I think some of the best art or some of the best songs even come from like, being slightly more emotional or slightly inebriated, or whichever way you need to get there. Like, I think sometimes that can help with certain, I guess, even just ways of framing the mind to think about it.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
To my understanding, you got your start in a more kind of Americana, maybe even folky kind of field, and then have found your way to more indie rock or alternative. Where did the initial love for, I guess, writing, or where did that first Americana kind of interest come from?
I think it definitely stemmed from falling in love with Taylor Swift when I was 10, because when I first started playing guitar, I was 9, and I think she'd released Fearless, I think. And so it was just blowing up, and I just remember listening to that, and I would watch the music videos, and I was like, I want to do that. And, of course, because they are like the whole 4-chord G, D, C, E minor sort of songs, that was all I could play. So it sort of just automatically went to that sort of thing. And then I started discovering more country artists, like, but more on the verge of country rock. And then I started finding out about people like Sheryl Crow, Melissa Etheridge. And so it started getting more towards like the Americana rock sound. And then like when I was younger, before I even started playing guitar, I was a pop punk queen. Like that's all I listened to. I loved pop punk. I love pop punk. And so I think it just eventually came full circle. Obviously I'm not punk, but like just full circle, like pop rock, indie rock sort of sound. I think that's sort of, probably the best way to explain it.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like it kind of is like an amalgamation, or like it all adds up to the sound of yourself.
Yeah, and I think also when I started actually going to open mics when I was younger and playing in front of people, I think there was actually I ended up being in a room with lots of more Americana artists rather than pop artists, just because of the whole guitar and singing sort of thing. And so I think like that also had a big impact on what I was writing at the time.
The most powerful designer drugs are the digital ones we use daily. And we get high off them. One touch, tap, like, scroll at a time. You know, just like tech creators want us to. Use digital without digital using you. Learn more at sync.ithra.com.
This summer, Instacart presents famous summer flavors coming to your front door. Or pool. Or hotel.
Your grocery delivery has arrived, sir.
That was faster than room service.
No violins in the lobby.
Oh, seriously? Anyway, sit back, relax, and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Starring your favorite snacks, drinks, and more. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Rated H for hungry audiences. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
Yeah, 100%. I imagine that especially in Australia, and I say this in a loving way towards Australians, but like we do have a tendency to kind of almost like, and I feel like it's better now in 2021, but even 10 years ago, like pop music might not be looked upon as seriously as, you know, like rock or folk, or there's a less credibility to it almost, which isn't true. Like pop music, well-written pop music can be fantastic. And so did you find that there was maybe something like that in terms of not pop shaming in a way, but almost, yeah.
I remember hearing all the time like, oh, you listen to pop music. Oh, I don't listen to mainstream music. That was like such a thing a few years ago. But I feel like now, like, I feel like that's not so much a thing now. And I'm really happy about it, because I used to say stuff like that too, but I didn't know what I was saying. I was so young. But I love pop music. I love pop music, especially the type of pop they play on Triple J at the moment. I think it's so fun and it's so edgy and it has so much character to it.
100%. I don't see why, realistically, and again, it is getting better, but like why you can't listen to, you know, like punk and then listen to Americana and then go to pop, and then like why you don't eat the same meal every day for breakfast or lunch or whatever. So why would you just listen to the same shit all the time? Like,
yes, I agree.
Anyway,
That's
I digress.
so true.
That's a
yeah.
yeah.
That's a big hole we could fall down.
Exactly. That could be a whole podcast series that maybe if that does happen, Lily will get you back on. We'll have a chat.
Yeah, sounds good.
I want to kind of circle back a little bit to the Lemonade video, because when I went to do my research for today and have a look at like a bit of a deep dive on everything you've done, the Lemonade video, I thought maybe I was tired, maybe I wasn't sure what was going on. There's yourself and there's, I want to say, it might not be a gentleman, but there's someone in the video with you that I was trying to work out what was going on, and maybe you can help me in explaining it to listeners and what's happening in the video.
Yeah. So again, lockdown happened, so we had to sort of work around what we had to work with. So the storyline did change a little bit. But the puppet, originally, I did want just normal people in the video, just to portray like a party scene, sort of like me feeling like the outcast at the party we were going to have. And then I was sort of like talking to Braden, who did the video, about it, and he's like, you know what, we should just save the hassle on finding people. I've always wanted to do this for a video, but let's make puppets and have them play the party animals who are always doing the wrong thing. So originally we wanted there to be like 5 to 10 puppets drinking alcohol. We were going to throw powder across the kitchen bench and have them like doing that sort of thing. But then we just sort of like everything happened all at once and we only had 3 puppets. So we just worked with that. Pretty much the puppet just portrays, the bad side, the darkest side of your adult life as you're coming into that from like a more childlike perspective, and how everything changes. There's like that scene where the puppet's throwing the eggs at the car. That's just like a peer pressure sort of thing. So it's more of that now, but originally it was going to be quite different.
I kind of liked the puppet, and I'm curious whether he, she, they will make an appearance in possible future Lily videos.
This has been spoken about. I guess you'll have to
keep our eyes peeled.
To wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
But it has been spoken about.
Okay, all right. That's all we need to hear.
Yep.
We'll leave it at that. We won't push it any further. As you said, obviously the borders and vax rates all going up, hopefully allowing for some shows in the near future. What are some of the things that you've missed, I guess, to start with, from playing shows and being able to go out and see people?
I just miss like the feeling of playing a show. I've only ever done a few headline shows with my band for single releases and stuff. I've never done a tour. But I really miss those shows and just, having all my friends and also when people that you don't even know come and you're like, how did you even hear about this show? Like, that's such a cool feeling. And I miss that so much. And yeah, I just can't wait. It's such an indescribable feeling of playing a show, and like all my friends would be up the back and they'd be singing all the words, and it's so good. I can't wait. I really want to do a tour though, so I'm hoping to sort of organise that for this time next year. But I don't know what that sort of feeling is yet because I haven't experienced it.
In my mind, I've classed you with a few other acts that we've spoken to this year that I feel that like previously or before COVID, you would have played a handful of shows, as you said. And even just then when you were saying, and then like people rocked up that we didn't know and like, how did you find out that, yeah, you're one of these artists that I am putting with a few others that we've spoken to who I imagine the next time when you do go on tour, you're going to find that there's a lot more people there than previously, if that makes sense. I feel like COVID has had obviously
That would
everyone
be
locked up
so
indoors.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be so cool. Oh my gosh. And that's really nice of you to say as well. Thank you.
No, of course, of course. It's one of those things, like, I find that there has to be some form of silver lining with COVID and the way that it's affected the music industry.
Yeah.
And for one, I think, for like up and coming acts, is that it's really allowed people time to like sit with the music and learn, and maybe differently from how they previously would have done it. So now when you go out and play another show, you'll find that I feel like smaller acts are starting to see their followers and their fans kind of spike in a much nicer fashion for them. So again, that's my thoughts anyway. Hopefully, touch wood, that is the truth, and you find that. So please don't. If that doesn't happen, please contact me and I'll issue an apology.
Yeah. No, that's fine. It's good to be optimistic.
Of course. Exactly. Can we expect more music from you in the new year come 2022?
Definitely. I actually just put the plan together. So I'm really excited. There might even be a lot of music. I'm hoping to have an EP out by the end of August. So I've kind of given myself a few deadlines. And obviously I'm going to try and track most of the stuff in my room because I really like the idea of that. Obviously I'm not going to mix it because I'm terrible at that, and I know too many people who are too good at it that I'd rather pay to do it for me. But yeah, there will be lots of new music next year.
That's very exciting. That's awesome. Lili, usually we ask our guests what they're currently listening to. Is there anything that's currently getting a bit of a thrashing on either your record player or on your streaming service?
I've delved right into the early 2000s at the moment. I'll get up my Spotify playlist. Hold on. Okay, at the moment, these 4 songs in particular have been on repeat. So we've got She's Like a Comet by Jebediah, Hedge by Skulker, Sink by the Superjesus, and Gravity by the Superjesus. So that's what I'm listening to right now, literally on repeat. Yep.
What an interesting combo. Like, they all kind of like work together, but like we're based in Adelaide, so Superjesus are obviously like a big deal here in Adelaide. And then what was the first track again? You said, it was Jebediah.
Jebediah. She's Like a Comet.
How, if you don't mind me asking, because I know you're never meant to ask a lady her age, but I'm trying to piece it together. When you said that you were about 9 when Fearless came out. I've done that right.
I think.
Yeah. I'm trying to work out the math back then and then to now. How did you come across some of these bands like Jebediah and Superjesus? Because they're played sparingly on some radio these days, but they're not, I guess, how did you come across them?
Well, it started off with the Superjesus. I went for a walk with one of my friends who also is a super good guitarist, and she was telling me that Lemonade reminded her of this song by Superjesus, Gravity. And I was like, oh, radio. So I went and listened to it. I don't really see it, but I really liked the song. And so then, of course, I just went and listened to more of the Superjesus and found Sink, and I love Sink. And then from there I was like, oh gosh, the alternative rock pop music in the early 2000s was so good. So I just kind of went on like a binge listen to all of that sort of stuff. And then I found She's Like a Comet by Jebediah. And then the Hedge song just came up in a playlist I was listening to with all like similar sounding songs, and that's how I found it.
That's cool. I love stories like that where friends can kind of recommend music and then you find your own little path through it. It's always kind of...
Yeah. It was actually so funny though, because I posted on my story on Instagram that I was listening to Gravity by the Superjesus, and that my friend, like this particular friend, had recommended it to me. And anyway, so then in my band chat later on, I was texting, I was like, how come you guys haven't told me about the Superjesus yet? And my guitarist, who is also the videographer from Lemonade, he was like, I legit told you about Gravity when we started playing Lemonade. And he was so mad because I just like completely ignored him when he said that. Oh, he was fuming. It was hilarious though.
That's heaps funny. Look, you've found them now. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Lili, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast today. I do appreciate it, and congratulations again on Lemonade.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate your time.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Lili Crane for her time. Lemonade is out now, and we've left links in the show notes if you'd like to stream her music. We also want to give a huge shout out to Daniel at Beehive PR for helping out with today's interview. You can find a link to our Spotify playlist in the show notes, where you'll be able to listen to all of our guests' picks. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Thursday and Friday morning, with guest playlists streaming on Spotify at the same time. You can follow the playlist profile on Spotify. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.